Well, today I want to talk about what I consider the main source for a lot of the dangers and harm done around the world, and why I think, for the most part, religion is one of the bigger sources and one of the more dangerous. Not automatically or necessarily ultimately, just why it has the potential. And this is authority. People tend to advocate, not advocate, sorry, give in to authority. When someone says that they consider an authority figure says something, they tend to put weight towards what they say. The higher the authority, the more weight given to it. You know, some stranger on the street, you're not necessarily going to put a lot of faith and trust in his words. If he tells you to do something harmful or good, you're going to put it against your own personal feelings. Family members, especially parents and whatnot, you're going to put a little bit more. But if it still goes against everything you stand for, you're going to not give it as much strength. And not, it still falls mostly into your personal feelings. But you're still going to say, well, he has some more knowledge, maybe he has something that he understands. And it goes up to religious leaders to presidents, leaders, and whatnot of the country, all the way up to God. Each step having more authority in your mind and having weight to more stuff. And we see it all the time where people justify and explain away why things in the Bible happened. This genocide must have had a good reason for it. Who are we to judge or question God? And this is where you get into a lot of situations where people, for the most part, try to make God mimic their own feelings. But people can be persuaded into doing something against their own feelings because God supposedly thinks this way or believes this way. And who are we to question God, as they say? God is the ultimate authority. What can anyone say once somebody's convinced that God thinks and feels a certain way? What could anybody possibly say to change their mind? They've given everything towards God. And one of the dangers of this is that it can be open to manipulation by religious leaders who claim to speak for God. You run into people who wouldn't necessarily be homophobic or against gays or against a person that's raped or everything else, but when a religious leader makes arguments supposedly by God, they can be convinced. And this is the dangers. And this is also why, we see this with Korea, Hitler, Stalin, and all these other atrocities. Well, they weren't linked to religion, they were linked to the same danger and same cause. Authority figures. When Stalin did the harm he did, he was the leader of the country. People opposed him, but a lot of people were convinced because he's the authority and he's telling them that these things have to be done. So people give up their personal feelings to go with what the leader says. And this is the danger. Not critically thinking about what someone says. Going with what they say, even if it goes against your personal feelings. Look at what happens with the Tea Party. And a lot of Republicans, they're conned and they're tricked by Republican leaders and Tea Party leaders into going against their own interests. Because these guys are telling them that their interests isn't right. They're trying to convince them that, these things that help them are actually harming them and harming them ultimately, rather than actually thinking about these things. And people buy into these lies. Same thing with people that believe in creationism or cult leaders and everything else. All these things come down to authority figures and people not thinking critically about stuff. There's the wizard's first role, which really ties into a lot of this. People will believe a lie because either they want it to be true or because they are afraid it's true. People will go against their interest because they're afraid. What if what they say is true? That these things that help me are actually harming me. Or deep down, they want it. People are convinced that paying taxes is bad. You don't get any benefits from it. Even though everybody gets benefits from it, even themselves. Nobody does not get benefits in some way or another from taxes, but people are convinced against it. And we run into all these issues. And I think this, we gotta get past just accepting what somebody claims or even if it's God or whatever. Don't uncritically think about what they're saying. Take a moment to think, does this make sense? Is it actually what's true? Don't just blindly believe any leader. Even me, I'm not really an authority figure or anything, but don't uncritically accept what I say. Think about it. Take the time to question me, to question anyone, question everything. Don't just blindly accept stuff. But also don't blindly ignore or reject everything either. Don't reject something because it goes against what you think or believe. Take the time to look at it critically. This is what I think. Comment below if you agree or disagree with me. What do you think about this? I might do another video clarifying and explaining a bit more, but I'm curious your thoughts.